Welcome back to Copper Star Precision, the channel dedicated to getting you more points at your competitive shooting matches. So I released a video a little while back on the proposed NRL22 rules for the 2024-2025 season. But now that the season has started officially, as of May 1st, we have the official rules, and there have been some changes in our favor. So maybe my video helped raise a little bit of a stink about some things that were in the original proposed rules. I like to think so. But regardless, let's jump into some of the new rules. So, these are the official rules. They can be found at NRL22.com, no longer .org. So .com, and looks like they listened and realized that inflation was a thing. So the base class division is now limited to $1,500 instead of $1,300 like in the proposed rules. So that's, in my opinion, a huge win. Not that you need to spend that much on a rifle and scope combination, but with the prices of everything going up 20 to 30%, optics, rifles, I mean, prices have been going out of control. So it's nice that if you had a rifle that was right on the fringe of that $1,300, and now the new MSRPs of your rifle and scope combination bumped you up out of base class, hopefully with this $200 increase, it keeps you in base class if you want to compete in base class. So I think really that's the biggest one I wanted to cover. There are a few other changes in here. So Section A kind of defines all of the things that don't count towards that price cap. So remember, it's MSRP as defined by the manufacturer on their website of the rifle and the scope added together. So all this extra stuff, bipod scope rings, scope bases, all that kind of stuff does not count towards that $1,500 limit. This changed a little bit. So factory barrels must remain in their factory specifications, but they can be threaded. I believe on the proposed rules it said you couldn't thread the barrel if it didn't come that way from the factory, which is nice if you want to add things to the rifle. However, you cannot add barrel tuners. So barrel tuners have been banned for this year. They were not banned last year. They were banned in the proposed rules, and they have stayed banned. So no barrel tuners allowed on base class rifles. Thread protectors, muzzle brakes, suppressors are okay. And sometimes you want a little bit of that weight on the end of the barrel. It does help, but nothing that can act as a tuner can be added to the rifle. I know that made some people upset, but at least threaded barrels are okay. So if you had a factory barrel and you had it threaded, to add a tuner or something like that, just take the tuner off, put a thread protector, put a suppressor, put a muzzle brake, and you're still okay for base class, which is good. Again, aftermarket triggers are prohibited. This was one of the big changes in the proposed rules, and it has stayed that way. So no aftermarket triggers, however, safe adjustments to the trigger are allowed. So that means things like spring kits, if you are skilled enough to go in there, take apart the trigger and polish the sear and all that kind of stuff. Totally allowed as long as it's safe. We have no internal weights is allowed. So unfortunately you can't like hog out your stock and add a bunch of lead shot or something to make it heavier. In fact, you can't make modifications to the stock unless you're betting the action, mounting a rail, adding a cheek riser, or a sling stud. So if you want to add weights, it has to be to factory mounting points, or I have a solution coming up with the base class rifle that I'm building for this season. That's pretty slick. And I think all of that really covers the sort of the changes of the rules. And it's important to note that production status and MSRP on the first day of the season are valid for the entire season. So let's go through some of the common rifles in this video. If you need to come back to reference this for proof that these are what the prices are, today is May 3rd. So it's 2 days after the start of the season. So we can run through kind of the options. So I know I had this video 2 years ago where I broke down in sort of a matrix fashion all the different things you might look for in a base class rifle. It was early on in the channel's history, so it's not as polished as hopefully some of my more recent videos have been. But I still think a lot of those arguments hold. It's one of the most viewed videos on my channel. So, you could go back to that to look for something if you're just starting into this sport, or you could kind of look at what other people are using at the club. But regardless, I think there are basically, a small set of options for people who are pursuing the base class. Remember, we've got that $1,500 limit. I think I obviously went with the Ruger Precision rimfire rifle 2 years ago. I had good luck with it. I really like the platform. It is completely modular, but everyone in the comments was flaming me. They're like, I think it's a piece of crap. Buy a CZ. So let's talk about CZ first. I shoot CZ in open class. I love my CZ. I think they're fantastic rifle platforms, supremely accurate, always reliable, and I think that is huge. I wanted to try something different for my open class gun, so I went something other than a CZ. But CZ remains by far and away, I think, the favorite choice of shooters in base class and open class alike, unless you're going full custom, Voodoo, Rimex, some of the higher end 22 rifles. If you're going semi-auto, some people have really tricked out kids, full Cortsons, all that kind of stuff. But I think every CZ rifle pretty much qualifies for base class except for the very high-end chassis models or the Varmint MTR and the Manor stock. So as you can see here, your base model CZ American, $600. The cheapest one here is a synthetic one, $550. But basically all of these really qualify for base class with a scope pretty much of equal value, right? Pro Varmint has a really nice Boyd stock. That's a fan favorite. The Varmint has the heavy barrel that is 20 inches, I believe, which tends to be a little bit more accurate in my experience, all the way up to the MTR at $850. I think that's a viable option. And again, these last two obviously put you out of base class immediately, even without the optic. But if you have your eye on a CZ, and they're very capable platforms, I think any CZ will do you well. I would lean towards ones with the heavier barrel and a longer barrel if possible. So like the CZ American has a really pencil thin 24-inch barrel. I like the thicker and longer barrels where applicable. The Varmint at one, I know people don't really like this stock. If you're a larger person, taller person, I think this doesn't, although it looks fully adjustable, I think it's a little on the small side for stock for someone who is taller or has a longer length of pull. So as far as these models go, Pro Varmint is a very favorite choice. The regular Varmint, also a good choice. MTR, great choice. I don't think you can go wrong with any of the CZs and kind of make it your own. Moving on to Bergara. So Bergara has basically two rimfire rifles that kind of qualify. There's the BMR, which comes in both a carbon and steel barrel. So if you have a BMR carbon, MSRP $720, BMR $620. So you can lots of room for really nice glass with only $620 there. So leaves yourself a lot of room for higher end optics. However, because we're now $1,500, this brings into the B14R realm. The carbon version probably is going to put you out of base class because there aren't very many cheap optics, but an MSRP of $1,130, it gives you $370 to play with for an optic, and there is an optic that falls in this category. The B14R is a Remington 700 platform, very capable rifle. I know a lot of people who use these in bench rest to great success for ARA factory bench rest. This would be a very interesting option. This wasn't really an option with the $1,300 range, but now it is. Comes with a threaded barrel. You can throw a suppressor on there. ACIS pattern magazines, decent trigger, fully adjustable length of pull, cheek riser, pretty much everything you want. And again, on a Remington 700 platform. So if you wanted to buy a rifle to try in base class, you could do this. And then later down the line, maybe you want to upgrade your optic. This is still a capable platform in open class. And then because it's Remington 700 pattern, you have a whole plethora of aftermarket triggers once you want to make that transition into open class. And there are tons of stocks and chassis that fit that Remington 700 platform. So that being said, this might be the perfect option for someone who's just getting into the sport, wants to compete in base class to see if it's worth it, and then wants to take that same rifle, maybe upgrade the trigger, get a better optic on it, maybe put it into a chassis. I mean, the sky's the limit here because it's Remington 700 pattern. And I mean, this is built as a trainer rifle for larger centerfire rifles. So if you want to move this rifle into open class, totally doable. I've had people have great success with this rifle. I haven't shot it personally. I mean, I haven't shot it in competition personally. I've shot other friends who have this rifle. Fantastic rifle. And like I said, this is kind of your gateway drug that you can take into open class without having to buy a completely different rifle. So lots of options here. And now with this $1,500 price point, we'll talk about the scope that you might have to get to go with this. But this is a great option for those people who want to buy a rifle and then keep building upon it. It might push you into open class later, but like I said, will qualify you for base class this year. Let's talk about Savage. I didn't really talk about Savage in the last video. Got some flack, a lot of comments. Hey, what about Savage? I haven't had a lot of experience with Savage rifles. I haven't seen many locally that I could even try out. But even this B22 Precision Light with the carbon fiber barrel, this is one of the more expensive rifles that Savage makes. Sits right at $990. So it leaves you, basically $500 for an optic. This is one of the, like I said, one of the more expensive models. There's all kinds of cheaper models, $300, $400, $500 range. Like I said, I haven't had so much experience with the Savages. From what I can tell, they're completely capable platforms. This B22 Precision, the light has the carbon fiber barrel. Just the regular B22 Precision has a regular steel barrel. There's also the A22, which is their semi-automatic platform. I think inherently bolt actions are more accurate, unless you really want to go the semi-automatic route. So if all you have is a Savage, come out and compete, and most likely you will qualify for base class. Even with the cheaper models, you can put some decently high-end optics on here and still qualify for base class. What is nice about these B22 Precisions is it has all those M-lock slots on the side for adding weight, for extra balance. For balance, I'd probably would not go with the carbon fiber barrel. I'm not looking for necessarily a light rifle. If you're a younger shooter, maybe that's something that's important to you. Looks like it takes AR pattern grips, so you can put a vertical grip on there. Should be a completely capable platform. Didn't get a lot of love in the last video just because I haven't had experience with it, and these are relatively new. These B22 Precisions are. I don't think they even were. They maybe just were hitting the market when that video came out 2 years ago. So another option to consider. We have the good old Ruger. I still think bang for buck. Down here it says MSRP is basically $620. You can find this for less than $500 all day, every day. A lot of people, again, gave me a bunch of flack. Oh, it's a piece of junk, stamp tool this, plastic this. I think it's a great little rifle. I think it has the right amount of tacticalness that you can kind of make it your own. I have the whole video series where I go over all the modifications, adding weights on the M-lock slots, adding a bag rider, vertical grip, all that good stuff. I really like mine. It's extremely reliable. Rugers are very reliable, and have no problems with mine. I'm going to be going away from this a little bit in the new season, just because I'm not a huge fan of the stock trigger, and that's just a personal preference. So both this and the Savage have this Acu trigger. I don't know if they have a close-up picture of it. Yeah, but this little trigger with the blade inside as an additional safety. I never really got the feel for that kind of trigger. Kind of like Glock trigger, right? Which has the safety inside the trigger. It's one more thing that your finger is interacting with. I just want a flat trigger blade or a curved trigger blade that is just feels the same every time. I don't want to move one part and then move another part. That's why I also don't like two-stage triggers. I like single-stage triggers. Personal preference, but very capable platform. Great for young shooters because it's already comes fully modular and quick adjustable. So if you want to take it out and then use someone who has a different size stature as yourself, it's a really quick flip over. I actually lent my rifle to a friend at a match who shot his first match with this rifle, had a lot of fun, and it was really easy. Just get on the zero line, change the cheek piece, change the length of pole, completely toolless. So this is a great like loaner rifle for clubs, and maybe that's what mine will turn into in the future. But capable platform, gets a lot of hate. Don't think it's necessarily deserved, but not everyone's first choice, not necessarily, but I had a lot of fun with mine and will continue to have fun with it. If you're in the semi-automatic world, staying with Ruger, there is this really cool kind of 60th anniversary model 1022, $640 MSRP. And what's nice about this, it comes in that Magpul Hunter X22 stock. So it gives you M-lock slots that you can add stuff to. Length of pole adjustments. You can buy extra cheek pieces from Magpul to adjust the cheek height. And looks like a fun platform. Again, I don't think semi-automatics are inherently as accurate as bolt action 22s, but if you're going down that route, this might be an interesting option. And given the price increase, even something like the higher end 1022, this is the competition version, sitting at $960 MSRP as of the filming of this video. What's nice about this is it comes stock with Ruger's BX trigger. So it's an upgraded trigger, but it's actually the factory trigger for this rifle. So The original 1022 triggers may leave something to be desired. There's a lot of videos online about how you can kind of slick those up, but this comes with Ruger's better trigger from the factory, so it does not count as an aftermarket trigger. So something to consider if you're in the 1022 world. Tikka T1X. I shoot Tikka as my centerfire rifle. I love Tikkas, very smooth actions. I know people have great success with this rifle. Being that it's a sort of synthetic stock, it's kind of difficult to add weight here. Not as easy to maybe attach an Arca rail. Totally doable. Might take a little bit more on your end to get this truly competition ready. But by all means, a fairly reliable rifle. I have had some people who shoot this rifle tell me that they do sometimes get a little stovepiping, like a round kind of after it ejects or something, kind of sits straight up in the magazine, causing some issues. But other than that, completely capable. I love my centerfire Tikka. I imagine this would be somewhat similar. Haven't had a lot of trigger time behind one of these, but everyone that I talked to thinks reasonably accurate platform. Hard to find MSRP on this off of Tikka's actual website. So I'm going to Lipsy's here. This is a distributor, firearms distributor, and they're claiming MSRP is just at $700. So that's kind of what I would use. And yeah, that really covers it. So I think, between CZ, Bergara B14R, which is very interesting. I wish I knew about this a couple weeks ago during the pros rules. I wish they had already decided it was going to be $1,500 because this opens up a very interesting upgrade path if you want to go from base to open. Pretty much any of the Savage rifles, the Ruger Precision Rimfire, like I said, any 1022 is going to fall into base class if you want to go the semi-auto route. Tikka T1X is pretty much your option from Tikka. And as far as scopes go, now for some of these rifles, again, to stay under that $1,500 limit, you're going to have to limit your optics. But let me give you a rundown of some of the optics that I would be looking at and in the price range where it should qualify most rifles for base class. So starting out with Vortex, I like Vortex's higher end scopes. Diamondback Tactical, MSRP $650, which is outrageous. This is not my first choice. I really like Vortex products. I think this one misses the mark a little bit. I think the turrets are very mushy. I've played with a lot of different ones of these in stores and never wanted to buy it because it wasn't tactile enough. It didn't rub me the right way. But if it's within your budget and you have one, maybe it's a good option to start with. Never ever pay MSRP for Vortex products. This MSRP is a joke. Even on Amazon right now, this rifle scope is $410. So quite a big difference on that. Athlon is a very interesting company. Depending on your budget, what you have for your rifle, now with an extra $200, something like the Midas TAC HD, 624 by 50, has a nice Christmas tree reticle. Kind of what you want to see when it comes to this kind of game, this style of Christmas tree reticle, and it's nice because right around the center here you have 0.2 mil hatch marks, and then it goes half after that. So kind of nice to have that little 0.2 going on. Not a lot of scopes have that. They usually are either the cheaper scopes usually have half mil hatch marks, and then the very high end scopes have usually 0.2 mils all the way through. So nice to have that, especially on the windage, and then here. So at $712.49, depending on the rifle you get, this would be a good option. They also have options that are cheaper than this. Just make sure you are getting something that is first focal plane. You do not want a second focal plane scope for this sport. And again, I have that video that I released 2 years ago. I think all of the comments still stand in terms of what you're looking for in a scope. I like mil scopes. MOA is totally fine if your brain thinks that way. I like mil scopes. It has to be first focal plane. That's kind of a no-brainer. Parallax down to 25 yards at a minimum. Lower might be better for certain scenarios. 25 yards is probably the minimum. 10 mils per revolution is what I like, just working in base 10. Nice tactile clicks, decent glass quality. For a base class scope, something that's, $750 or less, beggars can't be choosers. But yeah, something like this, if your budget allows for it. And again, these can be found much cheaper than the MSRP, but we have to go off the MSRP for the rules. My favorite scope, and the one I used last 2 years, and I will be using on my new base class build for reasons, is the Match Pro. Now, this is technically it. You can't buy it on the website, right? But it's not technically discontinued, and in fact, the price has dropped. This used to be 400 or 450, so the price has dropped $50. So the non-illuminated version, $350, which is great because you know what that means. We can go back here, use a B14R, $350 added to that, you're still under the $1,500 limit. So that's what really brings this rifle into play this year. So Bushnell Match Pro 350. I don't think you're going to find a better scope for the money. It's by any means, it's not the clearest glass or whatever. The clicks are pretty tactile. They feel really good. Magnification range is what you're looking for. 10 mils per revolution is what you're looking for. Parallax is down just fine. So the non-illuminated version, $350 MSRP, it's going to be key. You can't buy it on the website. These are still available from online retailers. You can even find this on Amazon for like $300 or less. So for the money, I think this is a great scope from a reputable company. $350 again brings those rifles into play at a little bit more on the expensive side. But if you have the budget, $750 gets you the Match Pro ED 5 to 30 by 56, brighter image, bigger magnification range, nice Christmas tree illuminated reticle, and they say this one's a giant killer. It punches above its weight for its price class. So has been touted as being able to compete with scopes in the $1,200 to $1,500 range. So almost double the price. Whether that's true or not, I haven't personally looked through one. I would love to get my hands on one. So Bushnell, if you're listening, I'm a huge fan. I've been using your regular Match Pro for a long time. Match Pro ED would be kind of cool to check out. But yeah, so if you have the budget for this, this paired with a CZ, let's see, pair this with a CZ Pro Varmint, right? So 700, 750 puts you right at 1450, still under the price limit. You get great glass, you get reliable rifle. That is a killer base class combination. So if your rifle budget is low enough, this might be an option for you. I got a lot of flack last time for not including Arkin. So Arkin Optics, and I've heard some rumors. I don't know if they are substantiated. The EP5 seems to be a very well-liked scope. However, it's been my experience, it's very hard to find an unbiased review. There were some things that went down with Arkin and the way they marketed the scope when this stuff first came to market, where they would pay a lot of influencers and people in the 2A community to review this scope. They never really disclosed that they were being paid or getting free product from Arkin. I thought that was pretty scummy. So I don't think it's very easy to find a very unbiased review of this scope. However, if it's the price point, it looks like it has all the features you would want. I can't recommend it. I've never seen one, and I've heard a lot of things about sort of the way they marketed this scope when it first came out. It seems to be very popular though, because there's a 2 to 3 week lead on each of these models. So I think maybe the advertising worked. So their advertising budget seems to be putting to good use. Other than that, Element Optics, something like the Helix. There's a lot of other scopes and a lot of other companies that I haven't worked with. But the big ones, so I've worked with, I've looked through and shot with, Vortex products, Athlon products, Bushnell products. There are a lot of other brands out there. Really, it's going to dictate, what you want your rifle to be, and then kind of finding a rifle scope in the budget that brings you up or brings you below that $1,500 limit. But for me, it's going to be the Match Pro. I've been using it, had great success with it. I think it works well. And the key is MSRP. 350 brings a lot of interesting rifles into play. Thanks for sticking around for the video. Really just wanted to highlight this new change to the rules, new budget, $1,500, and I kind of wanted to walk through some of the most common options. If you are going to participate in base class, it's probably a good idea right now. Go to some of these websites or bookmark this video if I mentioned your rifle or scope combination. Go to the factory websites, take a screenshot of the MSRP. So if anyone calls you out for, oh, you're over budget because companies raise the prices at the end of the year going into 2025, as of today, whatever the prices are today or even 2 days ago, those will count towards what is going to be defined as the limit. So if prices go up next year, and prices always seem to go up. They don't seem to go down. Take screenshots, bookmark this video, so you have proof that this was the price at the start of the season. So again, some rifle and scope combinations for you to think about, some updates to the rules, and I will be sharing with you the build for the new base class rifle that I am putting together. So if you want to follow along with that, make sure that you're subscribed while you go down there and click the subscribe button. Ring the bell so you get notified when new videos come out. There's a lot of content coming out very soon. Leave me a comment down below. If you're going to compete in base class, do these rules kind of change your perception or attitude towards base class? Did they make a good decision? Did they make a poor decision? And yeah, let's start a discussion down in the comments. And until I see you next time, as always, score more points.